Hello and a warm Collisions YYC. Welcome to a returning guest, a good buddy of mine, my brother from another mother, Hafiz Mitha. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great, Tyler. How are you doing?
Good. So good to have you back on the show. I've had the privilege of being on your show, Between Two Dots, with your amazing co-host, Gilbert. You guys are awesome. You and I have run into each other again recently, as we often do, in this big, beautiful small town that we lived in called Alberta, with this new business. Maybe not a new business. Let me rephrase that. I got introduced to you, reintroduced to you with your new passion, and I'm going to say that boldly based on our story. You are general manager at Airways Crown, and there's so much more to that than what that title may imply. So welcome to the show. Give us a little bit of what you're up to now. Tell us about Airways Crown, and what I'm excited about is kind of share with the audience a little bit your journey to now being the general manager of this business.
Yeah, thank you. It's pretty wild actually running into you as many times as I do at like really interesting pivotal times, because like funny enough, I'm getting married in a couple of weeks. And
congratulations. I don't know if I knew that. That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
amazing. Thanks, man. And if you recall, I ran into you in person the first date that I was on with my
I do
partner.
Remember. Yes.
Right?
I and I've seen on your Instagram that it seems to be it's stuck.
Yeah, no, it definitely stuck. It was and it was so funny as well too, because we were at Monogram, and we ran into each other, but we had chatted literally the day before for the first time, and then you and I met in real life, and it was cool. We just kind of hit it off, and yeah, so that's new and fresh. But it's been quite the journey, man. With Airways Crown, as you mentioned, it's a new business, but it's not. My parents bought the property that we're on in 1996, and my dad, being a mechanic, had the mechanic shop with 2 bays, and there was a gas station, and that was going as is till about 2000. And then in 2002, Crown Rust Control, which is a company based out of Ontario, approached us and said, "Hey, we have this product. We do rust proofing and undercoating. You guys should get into it. It could be an adjunct to your business." And my dad, being the consummate businessman and also risk taker, was like, you know what? Why not? It's another avenue to add to a revenue stream, and let's see how it goes. So since 2002 till about probably 5 years ago, it was kind of just like the last bay in our shop. If cars came in, my dad would go back and forth and kind of do it, and I never really understood what the concept even was, because I was just busy doing my own thing. I had Play City. I had other things that I was working on, and I would just see my dad just gassed at home always. And I didn't quite understand why. Obviously, he's a mechanic. He's doing heavy lifting.
How long was your dad running his own? Did you grow up with your dad doing his own thing? Has that always been kind of the quote unquote way it was for you?
When my dad came here in like the late 70s, I think he was working at a shop to get certified. And the first chance that he started his own business called Simba Auto Parts. And it was a small mechanic shop, and him and his brother ran it. And he's always been the guy pushing the weights, pushing the tools. His brother, he's passed on now, but his brother was always more like the operations kind of, the business guy, but also just the silent partner-ish. He had a full-time job at Transit, driving buses. But my dad was the mule, always kind of just pushing it. So
yeah, but I do appreciate the grind of his brother working a full-time job, but then helping behind the scenes at night, just the reality of like so many. I think now we showcase and we talk about being an entrepreneur and running your own business. Back then, it was just a way of survival. Like I don't know, my dad was always self-employed. No one called him an entrepreneur. No one interviewed him about his startup. He just worked.
Yeah. No, exactly. And it really takes a village, right? Like my mom was there every single day as well too, working full-time downtown, doing her oil and gas job, and then doing the accounting and kind of making sure the finances all made sense, because you're like taking money from different lines of credits or whatever, and just kind of making it happen. Especially when it's just like at that point, my parents were running the gas station, they were running the mechanic shop. My dad was doing some of the crowns on the side that would come in, and then we had a little car wash that he would maintain as well too. And I'm talking about like shoveling shit like from people's cars into like buckets and throwing it out, like all the things, man. Just it's crazy even thinking about it now. Hustling.
And as a kid growing up, were you involved in that business at all, or were you kind of? And I'm leading this because you and I did chat a little bit about. Sure. You kind of were on this, like, kind of almost kept away from it. Is that am I bold? Is that too bold to say that?
Yeah, no, to an extent, yeah. Like, so I was my first job was doing full serve at the gas station. So when I was like 14, I was kind of doing like the oil checks, and filling people's gas and stuff like that. And then it was always very like in my face. You know what? We've worked really hard with our hands, so you don't have to. Go work with your
Yeah.
mind
Yeah. Yeah.
and do the thing. So like very early on, my parents, specifically my dad, wanted me to be a lawyer, as most like immigrant parents do, right? It's like doctor, lawyer, engineer, or
Lawyer,
failure.
doctor. I was like, there is kind of a playbook around that, or
Yeah,
certainly
always,
there's
right?
almost a running joke about it, but it's not untrue, right?
It is a running joke. It's funny. Like me and my partner talk about this all the time because like I have a lot of cousins and their wives are all lawyers, so we have no shortage of lawyers in the crew.
You
But
have legal
I dropped
counsel
out.
as required. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
do, yeah, and they're all different like practices as well too, different specialties. So I'm set that way. But no, I was kept out of it, and I didn't feel comfortable there. And this is what we chatted about that day as well too, because like I used to come to the shop, and if I'd go to the back where my dad worked, it was very like noisy, and it was just like a bunch of tools. And he was all my dad's in the zone, like he's in the zone, like he didn't like to be bothered because he's a man on a mission. He's just doing his work, right? He's problem solving all day. So if I come in the back, like, hey dad, how's it going? He's kind of like, what are you doing? Like I'm in the middle of something. So I'd only come back there to be like, hey dad, I'm gonna get lunch. Do you want something? And he'd be like, hey, I grab me this, or I'm good. And that was it. I was in and out. I never felt comfortable back there. I wasn't coordinated. I didn't work with tools. Because my dad is always like, if you got a problem, I'll just fix it. You go study, do your thing, man. Like I got you. And yeah, that was just the way it was for like my entire life till COVID, and then everything changed.
Yeah, fast forward, obviously, your own startup with Play City. You've been
Mhm.
involved in many different businesses, which we've chatted about. Please go back to past episodes if you want a little bit more. But what I love so much, and there's such a conversation now about the transition of businesses and so many older generation looking to get out of their businesses, and some of the stats around how many will actually get to transition or how well they're set up for it. But yet I see a whole onslaught, and I'm going to use that word deliberately, of younger entrepreneurs that the barrier to entry sometimes is high to get into an existing business. So, I'm going to start something from scratch. Often underestimated how hard and how long that is versus stepping in. I've heard it called the silver tsunami of wealth transfer, but also the amount of sheer businesses that are up, that are viable, that are good, that have opportunity to be modernized and technology. And when did that moment hit you of like, wait a second, I'm picturing The Alchemist. Like you go on this long journey and you come back
Yeah.
to the thing that was there all along. Maybe that's a bit too philosophical on my
No,
side.
that's exactly it.
And like,
Alchemist is my
when was the
favorite book.
moment where you're like, shit, son, this business is right in front of me here. This is an opportunity.
I remember it. So Jason from Fit Kitchen had given me an opportunity to. It was funny because like during COVID, Play City came to a standstill. I was like, I don't know what the hell to do here, and I was looking for jobs. Like I started applying. I applied to Benevity. I applied to like wherever, and then I talked to Jason at Fit Kitchen. I was like, dude, my car's too old to drive Uber. Can I come work for you and just drive the Fit Kitchen trucks for a little while I figure this out? And he was like, why would you drive my trucks? Like, come in and help me with operations. Like, do this. And I remember thinking like, oh, okay, shit. Okay, let's do this. But then when I met his team, I did all these things. And then, and if Jason's listening, I love you because you made it all happen. But he took so long
Nice.
to get me like the job offer. It was like a month and a half. I was waiting. So in that time, I was like, I need to do something now. And I was telling my
Yeah.
parents, I'm freaking out a little bit. Like cash is getting a little tight. I'm not sure what I'm doing. And my parents were like, we have Crown. I can train you on this. My dad was like, I can train you on this and you just do it. If you need to do that, you can help me out and do that. I was like, all right. Because at the same time, my parents were selling their business because my parents were looking to retire. So there's a company that was looking to buy or retire.
I kind of forgot about this, like this
Yeah.
part of the sale gone wrong and kind of
That's exactly
what
what
might
it
have
was.
been an actual really bad move. That's right. I forgot
Yeah,
about that
yeah.
kind of the antagonist of the story.
It was, but also kind of like this, like, I don't know, man. I feel like I've had a horseshoe up my ass my entire life. Things just seem to work out. You know what I mean? Like they always just do. So like there's the whole perfect storm. So my business at a standstill. My dad needs help with Crown, but they were selling the business, so it was kind of like a short-term thing. So I was doing Crown. So I go into Crown, and right away I'm starting to do the Crown, and I'm looking at how much because when I first got there, my dad was like, yeah, I usually give it about 2 hours per Crown, and I do like 3 a day. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess it takes 2 hours. So then I'm doing the job, and I'm like, well, I understand why you said 2 hours because you're doing mechanical work, and then you're going back and forth, and you got to talk to customers.
Yeah, you're not focused.
And then
So
you're driving.
immediately
you're
your
not
ops
focused.
brain starts kicking in.
Yeah, so I'm like, all right, let's streamline this because I can.
And just to
this takes
restate it for
too long.
everybody on
Yeah.
the call, because we probably skimmed over it quickly at the beginning, Crown is a form of rust proofing for your car.
Yes.
often, I grew up out east, you just rust proofed your car. It was a thing to do. And I think Albertans or maybe Western Canadians haven't been as prone to that. But now that we're putting salt on our roads, this is a treatment to keep your incredibly expensive investment from AKA falling apart or big holes gaping through the side 5 years from now, which if you grew up in Quebec or Ontario, that's commonplace to see that.
Right.
Every little town has a little local guy who does body work because he just fixes where your car rusts out.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's come west a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you for doing that. And that's exactly it. But like most Calgarians don't even know that we use salt. So thanks for that plug. And Crown is massive out east. And more people now are getting wind of that as well too. So, but going back to your point,
well, having a
about
whole
the
bunch of people
experience,
moving here from, look at net new influx from population from
huge.
from centers like Ontario and Quebec, where cars literally 5, 6 years old. There's like the fenders are rusted out. You just don't see that out here. So the need for it, I think, is huge. But I love also how focused it was, and like it was a specific thing. Mechanic work can be, I don't know what's wrong. This is you come in, you give me the money, I give you a very specific outcome, and that's great from an ops perspective because you can get your head around it, right?
Exactly, it's very simple, right? I remember sitting on the cars, and I remember spraying the car, and I'm like, okay, I've learned how to drill the holes. I'm looking at the spray sheets. I'm doing the thing. I'm picking it up. I'm using tools. My hands are dirty. They're greasy. Like I'm feeling like I'm in the shop. I'm like, holy shit, I'm in the shop. Like I'm not a mechanic, but I'm in the shop. Like this was the thing that
the wall has come down, and you're actually and the power of doing something with your hands and seeing an outcome to it. I know a lot of times we live in the intellectual space and the knowledge-based workers. There is something surprisingly rewarding for anyone out there who knows. They're probably nodding right now. Doing a job and seeing the start and seeing the end, and you did it. There's still something pretty primally rewarding to that.
100%. It's tangible. Like you can feel it, right? Yeah. And sometimes like you screw up, but then the fixing it is like the super rewarding part as well too. And me and my dad.
Well, that's where resourcefulness comes in.
Yeah, exactly. And my dad's MacGyver back there as well too, right? So being able to actually ask him like questions that relate to vehicles and whatever else, and him like now imparting his knowledge and different tools and whatever, I was like, this is a cool knowledge transfer happening, right? So within all that, though,
and did you curious? Did your dad? This could be the current business owner, just also happens to be your dad. So it makes it potentially more or less complicated. Was he really open to like, who's this young kid with all these new ideas? Or was he like, I'm excited to actually have somebody that's moving in the same direction as me?
It took a while to get there, right? Like in the beginning,
I wondered. I jumped to that one myself.
No, remember, because like this is the sale was still happening. I'm just there short term, right? Just short term. So I'm like, Dad.
So no matter what, this is still a temp solution, right? Because this shadow of, well, we're selling the business anyways is hanging there. Yeah.
And I have a propensity of coming in hot as well too. And
that's maybe why you and I get along, brother.
Yeah. The second day in, I'm like, dude, Dad, we can be doing this completely different. You know what I mean? Like
he's were like, the bottleneck. Whoa! I've been here for 20 years. Like, take it easy, young buck.
Yeah, it's exactly it. I'm like, Dad, you're talking to the customer. You're shooting the shit, chatting with them. I'm waiting back here for you to bring the car in. I should be bringing the car in.
Let's go. Let's hustle. Let's go.
Yeah, I can finish it. I can drive the car out, and you still do mechanical work. Because like what was happening was that he'd have to like wash his hands because he would be full of grease because he was doing mechanical work, and then he'd go get the car. And then he'd bring it in, and then he'd go back to work. And I'm like, okay, now I understand why you have the 2 hours, but I think I can do this in 1 hour. Instead of doing 3 cars a day, we can do 8. Why don't we try that? And he was like, no, you don't understand, and this and that. And we would fight. Like, you
don't understand. Yeah. The classic. Yeah.
It was a good friction, right? And then at the same time,
but if you think about anyone who's buying an existing business to change it and to modernize it, and they want to invest, and there's an exiting business owner, it's so hard not to get into the trap of like, this is the way I've always done it. So this is exactly. Like, you look at it, you pick up the tool the same way every day. It looks like the same tool. You flip it over and you're like, what? Like shreddies on an angle, diamond shreddies. What? Like the amazing ability to look at something from a fresh perspective, but that can be very threatening if you're a longtime business owner as well.
It was, honestly, it was. Cause like, I think what was happening really quickly was I was unearthing a new business opportunity. And one that ended up being a lot more lucrative and a lot less like labor intensive because my dad's pushing tools, he's got cuts all over his head and his like hands. And here I'm coming in and saying like, we can make this amount of money per day if we just focus over here, and I can streamline this entire operation to make it easier. So he was like, it was a good in the back. It was a friction for sure.
Yep.
But the moment that he saw that I was doing the work and not cutting corners. And I got humbled a few times as well too. A couple of customers were like,
thanks for being honest, man. Yeah. I'm sure a
"Oh
couple
yeah,
times he was right.
yeah, 100%, yeah." Because I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, we don't need to use this flashlight or this and that." And then the customer would come back and be like, "Oh, you missed a big spot," or and my dad was like, "I told you, you gotta
Yeah,
take more
nice.
time." So, but then
The learning curve is real, man. The learning
it
curve is
was
real.
it was huge. But I took it in stride, and I was like, you know what? Because what was happening was I'd be spraying cars underneath, and I'd be holding a flashlight, and I'm like, man, my arms are getting tired. My fingers hurt,
I get
Dad.
it. Yeah.
You know? So I was like, there's got to be a better way of doing this. So we talked about it, and we ended up putting
Headlamp,
headlamps, and also LED lights all around the hoist underneath,
Oh,
shooting
nice.
up.
Yeah.
So I was like, now we can see, and now I can see the whole thing, and we don't have to worry about that, right? So it's not subjective and
Yeah, it's
angles
kind of
or
an
whatever.
upside down operating room if you think about it in terms of the amount of like how much clarity
Exactly.
that raw aggressive bright light, which now those are cheap as chips now too, right? Because such
Exactly.
an easy thing to add that makes your life so much better.
It was huge. It was these little things, right? So then we kind of did that, and then we figured out like the dance of like we start at the left rear quarter panel, and we walk around, and we do the thing. So we knew exactly where we were. And then when I was going to train the next person, I was like, well, "You do my dance," so we all know exactly where we are.
And
So we're
were you
creating.
writing out process? Was this, thinking about, anyone who's listening, operationalizing a business and like, oh, no one can do it as well as me. Okay. That's a clarity problem. That is a communication problem. None of us want to be the superheroes of our business, but it tends to happen. I don't care what
Yep.
business you're in.
Mhm.
So did you document that out and say, this is our kind of new SOPs, if you will?
I did. I right away. I was starting to write it down because I had some time
Nice.
in between cars because the crown business at that time wasn't as busy as it is now. So I had a
Yeah.
lot
You
of
were
time
kind of
between cars.
like the 10-year startup, right? Or the 20-year overnight startup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was beautiful though because I did have a business to go into to operationalize. Going back to your point earlier about like the silver tsunami, like there was a business there. I just needed some operationalization and needed some
Well,
streamlining
it's a relay. It's
processes.
a relay race, not a cold start, right? That's very different.
Exactly. Yeah. And it needed focus, right? Because like I remember spraying underneath cars because I'm listening to podcasts all day under cars. It was an amazing time in my life because I had all this time and it was
Yep.
just like I got into a state of like flow. Nobody was bothering me. My dad would bring the car in. I've got my earbuds in and I'm just listening and like how I built this or any whatever podcast all day. That's all.
Yeah,
I
I
was just
love it.
learning, right?
And there's something amazing, and I don't know, this is my own take on things. Like when you're doing something that takes focus, but it's still mindless, like a
Yes.
physical task, like I love listening driving because I'm doing something so my brain's somewhat
Mhm.
occupied, but there's this huge amount of space available for new information. That's
Right.
when I love to listen to, and that's where I get my best ideas. Where I'm,
Yep.
why I love a good walk and talk because there's a
Yes.
physical thing happening while your brain also still gets to focus on this new learning or new piece of information. I don't
Mhm.
know exactly kind of the modality of how that functions, but that's my sweet spot. Like just mindless
Mhm.
enough that I can do it and stay focused and not hurt anyone or cause something to go wrong. And I can still absorb a podcast at the same time. I love that. My brain eats
It's
that up.
amazing. Honestly, it was so good. So I'm spraying these cars and I'm looking at the cars that are coming in on the mechanic side and they're very like they're older and they're kind of beat up and they're very much like Azim, my car is messed up. I need you to fix it. And then I was looking
Mhm.
at the crown cars that I was doing and they're all new, like 2024 to 2021, or sorry, it was like 2020 at that point. So they're all kind of 1 year to like 4 years old.
Oh,
And
interesting. So
and
you're
the
also getting
customers
to
are
work on better.
oh,
Working on
they're
old
all
cars is a pain in the ass, right? Let's be blunt.
yeah, that is right. But my
Yeah.
job, like I'm drilling holes into panels. But I just remember thinking like no one's bringing a brand new car to the mechanic. They're bringing older cars and whatever else, right? And the customer is completely different. So you can look, I can literally
Yeah.
draw a line in the middle of our parking lot and see like here's another business, and here's my dad's business, and here's the crown business, and this is very just different. These people are
Interesting.
preventative. Every car was meticulous inside. They all had a towel inside. These people really cared about their car, and it was all about preventative maintenance. And there wasn't any haggling.
I
There was
love
just
the
one
difference of the
price.
persona. Like
Yeah.
who's your ideal customer profile, and that's a
Yep.
very different customer. They all have a towel on the door of my car now, so if
Yep.
I'm sitting waiting anywhere, I can wipe my dash. Exactly.
Exactly,
Yep.
right? So I'm like, I started to have these aha moments. I'm like, holy shit, there's something here. And I'm now doing the crown work, and I still have, this is yet for me, I haven't got to the front end of the business yet. I'm just still in the back.
And then
And
like yeah, we can jump ahead a little bit. There's this impending
yeah,
sale of like
yeah,
this is your parents. They have an exit strategy, which turned out, and I know we maybe can't get into all the details. Turned out to be a bit of an almost a hustle, if I remember the details right.
yeah, it wasn't great. It was kind of like a rent to own situation, and I won't get into the details right now. Because there's another pending deal somewhere else as well too. That's been, not the greatest, but either way, what happened was like I started training the staff that was eventually supposed to buy our shop. So I'm
Mm.
training them, and I'm at the same time I'm looking at the time. I'm like, okay, by 15 minutes you should be here on a new car, and by if the car has been crowned before, you should be here. So there's all these like milestones within the hour to like maintain, continuity with every car and some kind
I
of like
appreciate
just
that.
process, right? So this is cool. So now I've trained the back end people. There's two guys back there, and now we're getting busier, which is great. And but I'm also telling my parents, I'm like, man, this feels like a really weird opportunity because we're giving a business now that I know that there's something here. I know I can scale this thing. I know I can streamline it. I haven't even got to the front end, but this kind of sucks. And they were like, yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And at the same time, I'm applying for jobs, getting denied for these like entry level positions and stuff. And I'm like, what is going on? Like I've ran my own businesses for 20 years and I'm just having no luck with interview after interview after interview, and I'm consulting and still working Crown. And then fast forward, this impending deal falls through, and the finance people who were going to buy our property ended up saying like, yeah, we can't buy. They kind of strung us along for months, like we'll have the money next month and next month and next month. And finally, I talked to my parents and I was like, all right, this is in August, and this sale was supposed to happen in January. We're going on 8 months after the fact. I'm at a crossroad. I'm either going to get a job or we're going to do something else, but I think I can scale this thing. Let me just tell these guys we're good and we don't want to sell, and give me an opportunity to take what you built, and we own the land, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to scale it and we're going to flip it on its head, and we're going to change the signage, and this whole thing that was Aries Brake and Muffler is going to be now Aries Crown, and give me an opportunity. And the one bay that's in the back, I'm going to turn that into 4 bays of Crown, and we're going to hire and we're going to hustle and we can make it happen. And I still remember sitting in the room that day when we sent the email to the group saying, yeah, you know what, I think we've had to change our heart. Yeah, we're going to go in a different direction. And my parents looked at me, and by that time, I've kind of earned their trust, and they saw that I was showing up and adding value, and they're like, money's in the account, and this business is doing its thing, and my dad's working less. And my goal was always been to like help retire my parents, and they didn't see an out because they were stuck in the business and the pending sale, and there was no one to take it over. My sister is working at Parkland, up the corporate ladder. I've been an entrepreneur until this moment, and I was like, all right, this is like the crossroads, man. Like that hero's journey. Like I'm back, baby. Let's do this. I'm home. This is where I'm supposed to be.
The Alchemist. You traveled around the world for 20 years and came back to where you started.
Yeah,
It's literally on the book's on the shelf behind me. I can't help but just keep referencing it.
I know. I love that book, man.
It's so good.
It was written for me to come back there, right? That's what it felt like, and I was like, and even talk
It's
about it
such
now, it feels good.
And it's funny how like now it just makes so much sense now. But in the moment, I do appreciate that these things are happening in real time. There's a bit of an emotional journey. There's a recalibration of the relationship between you and your parents. So for anyone thinking like taking over any business, you add family business on top of it. It just adds another layer of complexity, right? If you're stepping into taking over a business as a young entrepreneur or someone who's acquiring an existing business and you've got an existing founder, there's going to be some stuff going on there. And then you're related to them, adds a whole other layer.
Yeah. It's wild how much has changed since that the whole process actually happened.
And I don't think we don't want to overlook the fact that your parents were seeing what I understand. You and I chatted a little bit offline, and we won't get into all the details of names and who's who and the zoo and all that. But they were kind of stuck in what was going to be a bad deal because they saw that as their only way out. And I don't think that can be overlooked of like the situation of I've been running this business forever. I'm kind of done, but I've got so much maybe wealth. I've got so much of my potential future tied up in it. My heart is tied up in it. And there's a lot of predatory people, there's a lot of predatory players, actors, there's a lot of bad actors. Let's use that term. There's a lot of bad actors out there that are taking advantage of that and putting people in position, like stringing them along, potentially put them under financial pressure. Like there's a lot of risk to somebody trying to exit a business. And the stats around 80% of, I think it's 82% of businesses that are because of aging out or no longer want to be in the business are not going to have a viable business to sell. That makes it rife for bad actors, in my opinion. And it sounds like kind of that's what you guys avoided from a little bit that you and I did chat offline.
Yeah, that's I think you nailed it. That's exactly what it was. It was just again like a really big serendipitous moment and a perfect storm of us to avoid what would have been a bad scenario, and for me to come in and work with my parents and figure out these roles to be like, all right, let's flip this business on its head. Let's try something new. Let's work less hard in terms of like labor and work smarter and what we want to be doing and actually just focus. And you know what? Like I thank God every day, and the universe responded, and it really worked out because it's wild when you go into a business that's doing decent and you can just use your tech background or marketing chops or streamlining or whatever, and little improvements every single day, having that 1% better mentality every single day changes that entire business. Like it was crazy what we were doing before. Because like if we were taking phone calls to make appointments, and my mom had two different calendars that she would write numbers down and names,
Can
and then
picture it.
called
Yeah, yeah.
them. Called them the day before to remind them, and then cancel and white out and move around. I was like, what is going on? This is
I can automate
yeah,
this for like pennies a month, literally.
yeah. I was like, this is insane, right? But again,
But
going
if
back
that's
to
the way
like,
you've always done it, it
yeah,
seems like it's amazing how you can normalize or things get normalized. That's just like, well, that's the
100%.
way we've done it for so long, which
Yeah.
to me is the immediate reason to go turn that stone over and go, well, if you've been doing it this way for a long time, let's go take a look what's underneath.
Exactly. Yeah.
And again, how are your parents? Where look? So fast forward. That was early
Yeah.
2020. So when did you say no to the deal? When did like if you look back, when was the date? Like when's the anniversary date you have in your mind where you're like, okay, we're doing this thing. It's now
Yeah.
real.
So
When did you send that? You probably
I
find that
took
sent
over.
email in your sent box, right?
Yeah, we're gonna frame it. I took over the business as general manager officially in August of 23. Yes,
Okay.
23. So I'll be,
So
yeah, I
literally
celebrated.
a year this summer when you just
So
a year
2 years,
past.
2 years this August. It'll be
Okay,
next August
nice.
that's coming up. It'll
Yep.
be 2 years. So August 23, if that makes sense. But
And
before
although it's the
that, it was
same
kind of like,
business, it's
yeah,
also a completely different business too. Like you
yeah.
took over it, but you completely changed it and took something that was a small portion and made it the core offering.
It looks different. So we upgraded all of our hoists. We upgraded all of our guns back there. Like we upgraded all of our spraying equipment. Like there's little things that were giving us issues every single day. Like little things
Yeah.
that we didn't learn until we learned to talk to different dealers as well too. Like my dad has always been kind of on an island doing his thing. He's like, I know what I'm doing. I do it my way, and don't worry about it. And every time I'm an inquisitive guy, and I'm like, there's
Dude,
250
go
other
learn from
crowns.
somebody who's doing it better. Always. Absolutely.
Exactly.
I couldn't agree
These
more.
guys are
Yeah.
focused on it. I want to go like so what I did was like I told my parents right away, the first thing we're going to do is going to go to the sales conference. It's in Ontario, it's an investment, but let's go. Let's go meet our peers. Let's learn from like the group. And they've never been. And running the Crown business for 22 years, not once have they ever been. And I was like, let's just go. I'm going to go. You guys want to come? Like I'd love for you to come. Let's be on the same
But
page. Because I've been to
I'm going no matter what. I love it.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I've been to conferences before and you come back and only one of the partners have gone and you're trying to bring it back and sell your partners and
Yep.
they think you know more than them all of a sudden and it's friction and I'm like, this is the complete opposite of why I went. It's like I'm leveled up, I think, but you're still here. So like why don't we get on the same page together and come back inspired? And that was the turning point because we went there. We were lucky enough to go there together. Me, my parents, and my sister actually came, and we were awarded like the best growth in the West for that year as
Oh,
well
fun,
too.
man. That's awesome. Okay. See,
Yeah,
and again, I love it. Community, peers, recognition, like that checks a lot of boxes, right?
yeah, all the things. So it was like this great feeling, and then all of a sudden, my parents starts like the walls kind of came down because I was asking a lot of questions, and we were getting these like little tidbits of like, holy shit, what a game changing thing that was. And for people, they were like, yeah, I just did this one thing, and I never had any issues before with my equipment. And we came home and we implemented right away. And next thing you know, like things are just humming, and they're getting better and better and better and better, and the business is growing. And finally, my parents were like, okay, you know what? I think it was like a full year, and I showed them. It was funny as well too, because I remember like everything that had to do with Play City that didn't work before was starting to work here now. Like I'd actually have
Awesome.
projections. There was actually money coming in, so I could create a budget of where I want to spend for marketing or whatever else, and
Yep.
operations and whatever. And the projections and the goal setting were actually starting to make sense, and they were actually hitting those goals. Because before Play City, it was all just like up in the air, and you have churn, and you have all kinds of shit. Here, it's like it's a simple business model. People come in, we treat them well, we upsell this one thing, and once sing from the sing songbook, we ask for the referral, and our number one goal now is Google reviews, and let's get that machine going. And fast forward in a year, we went from like maybe 6 Google reviews to like 150 at like a 4.9. And then my
Nice.
parents were like, wow, okay, like if we can just do this and do one thing well, that's the key. Because I remember with Play City, if I could turn back time, holy shit, my advisors were telling me just be the best tennis app. Because I started off as just tennis. He'd like just do the tennis app. And I was like, I want to do it all. And here, people every week were telling me, well, you should do detailing, you should do PPF, you should do this. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do
I've learned this lesson
everything.
before. I'm going to stay focused.
Exactly. We're going to do one thing and do that really well and just be known for that one thing. And that's it. So now we're the rust proofing undercoating people. That's all I want to be.
That's amazing. How much like just feels like the weight has also come off. Like, you and I chatted when you're doing Play City, and you were so much hustle and so much work, and one step forward, half a step back. You're always like, there's always a headwind. To just listen to you talk, and that's why I was inspired to kind of have you on to share the story a little bit about you. You just feel so much lighter and focused, and it's got to be great from an entrepreneur perspective to be able to tangibly, like you said, wrap your head around something, forecast results, and get them. Like, that's a great feeling. I don't want to sound like that sounds so trite, but it's true.
It's true. That's the thing, man. Like, Play City was sucking like the soul out of me. It was like my baby, and I loved it, and I still love sports.
And you learned a ton, man. And you learned,
not
to be cliche.
For sure. No, all the things that I've gone through, I feel like have brought me here. If I didn't go through that, I wouldn't have had some of the opportunities that I'd have with, Airways Crown and my parents' business and those learnings. But you can't. The only way to learn that stuff is to go through it. You have to go through it. So I have no regrets. I'm super, super grateful. I love the fact that my parents have built this business and they've worked their asses off, and I stand on the shoulders of giants. Like, I'm not coming in here starting something from scratch.
Yeah.
And everything kind of worked out. The sale fell through. I came in, like from the grace of God, like, we were able to like double the business of Crown, and they've doubled it again in the last year. And it's like, we're just doing the things, you know what I mean? So we're just staying focused, staying positive. I'm so lucky to have a solid team that everyone's on board. They're all kind of committed to not only just good customer service and that entire experience, but I'm empowering them to give me ideas in the back as well too. Like, how do we make this better? How do I make your life better? How do I serve you as my teammate to make your life easier so that you can work easier and work harder and work more efficient? And
being curious as a founder, as an owner, and having people that are in the business that are like just every day feeding you new ways of looking at things. Like, I think that's the only way to approach it. Not trying to be the superhero who has all the answers. That doesn't work.
No, 100%. And I'm so lucky and grateful, like people like yourself, like you brought your car in. And I really do appreciate that, like the level of trust that we have in the community. Like, people are bringing their cars in, their babies, and I'm drilling holes in their panels. Like, it's a scary thing for a lot of people. But once you have the trust and people are like, all right, I can actually do this service and my car will last me this much longer and it won't rust, and the proof is in the pudding. Like, it's a pretty incredible feeling, like the level of trust that people have given us with their babies. I do a brand new car every single day, 2025 off the lot, 50 kilometers. And I love
when you just say, like, I drill holes in your panels. Like, there is a pause that, and you said that to me, and you use those terms. But again, growing up back east, all cars had those little plugs in them. Like, it was just so commonplace. You saw it all the time. Mm-hmm. And I get it. You're educating, you're educating a new audience on what has become a more recent problem from was it 5 years since they've been putting salt in the road now?
About 5 or 6 years. Like, it's crazy. Like, the city of Calgary drops 50,000 tons of salt on the roads every single year. They're using a pickle brine, a beet juice, and then calcium chloride on the dirt roads and the alleyways to keep the sand and dirt soft. But when that stuff shoots up into your chassis, or you're driving around and it's in the snow and it goes into your windowsills and it comes down into your panels and it just sits, that's what ends up corroding inside, right? So when you spray Crown in there and we drill that hole, we can fan the entire panel. We now create a barrier with the oil, and it repels moisture. So you do that once a year, and your car is guaranteed to never rust. And it's such an incredible
product. And it's once a year. It's cyclical.
It's once a year. So this is what I love about the business as well too. Like, it's a subscription model as well too, right? Like, everything that I've ever wanted. So now it's about just filling the funnel. And you have a certain retention rate, right? And our retention rate goal is like 80 to 90%.
Okay.
So if we just keep filling the funnel and educate people and get new and new people coming into the business, all of a sudden it's a growing business that makes sense. And I really truly believe that
is that leveled out? Do people focus? Is this a fall thing, a spring thing, or is it kind of when it hits you all year round? Obviously, winter is a trigger for me, and that was, I think I got my wife's car done late last summer, early fall. But definitely, like, winter's coming. I'm assuming that the goal would be to kind of balance that out a little bit from an annual perspective.
100%. Yeah, like we're busy from like June all the way to like end of December. That's our busiest time.
Okay.
So a lot of people will do it right before winter. But the interesting with corrosion and rust is that it actually starts rusting in the spring.
So, when there's heat and there's more, there's humidity, and when it all gets to kind of activate from a chemical perspective.
Exactly, it's chemistry, and that's when it happens. So it's not actually happening in the winter; it's happening after, when things are evaporating, and you're stuck with like the salt sitting on bare metal, and it's just corroding. And humidity and stuff like that.
And
So
many of us we park inside, or we leave our houses, pick up a bunch of corrosion, then go and park in heated garages downtown. Like there's a weird, like we put our cars through hell, really.
totally, yeah. So it's educating the market now, which has kind of been
and
like
hey,
my
it's minus
focus,
30 out today. Your car's not rusting today. Like today's not the problem, actually. It's that moist, warm, like you walk into the underground garage and it's just the hanging in moisture. Can you imagine how that's activating all those chemicals inside the metal of your car? And I've seen some of your videos on Instagram, which I love, where it shows like, oh, this has been rust proof and there's been like a plastic coating on it, but then the coating cracks and then it gets in behind. Like there's some good arguments around why putting the coating over top and redoing it every year versus creating a physical barrier that then becomes the pocket for the corrosion to sit in is what I've seen on some of your Instagram videos.
Yeah, it's wild. Like we have cars that come in, like I said, brand new cars, and then they've been upsold at the dealership to get like the undercoating package or whatever, and it's like a rubber coating. But what happens with any kind of tar or rubber is that eventually it dries out and it will crack. And then that moisture and the water with the salt gets trapped in there. You created a barrier that's going to lock it in and starts rotting from the inside out. So some of these videos, I'll literally just chip away.
short term win, long term worse.
Yes, exactly. And from the naked eye, because how many people have the hoist that they get underneath? And I should look at these things, right? You don't.
Very few of us. If we turn the key and it runs, that's a lot of times the extent of what people do, and they hopefully take it for an oil change once in a while, right?
Exactly.
And again, I'm being facetious, but a lot of people are not mechanically inclined. They don't understand their cars, and nor should they need to, right? They just need to have somebody they trust that help them out.
Yeah, it's become commonplace. So like I urge anybody listening to right now, as you're driving at a red light, just stop and look underneath the truck. You'll see like the top of the vehicle looks pretty good, but most times the wheel well will start to rust, but underneath that frame will be orange. And I think people have just come to realize or that the thought process is like, yeah, that's just the way it is, but it doesn't have to be. You spray it with Crown, it will not go orange. It's going to stay like nice and dark. Your metal's integrity will stay intact, and your frame and your electrical components will stay lubricated as well too. So like you're not going to get the creaks, you're not going to get frayed electrical, like you're not going to get this rust that's chipping away at your metal. Like the integrity of your vehicle will stay strong, and you do it once a year. Like I really, it's like akin to a dentist appointment for a vehicle. You know, it's $150 per year, small little investment to make sure that your $100,000 truck or $80,000 vehicle or even $40,000 vehicle, whatever, just if you own it, protect it. Simple as that.
Well, the dental industry is a great example. The dental industry, that didn't always used to be the case, right? That 6-month checkup or the 9-month checkup, they've taught their customers that through reminders and a good CRM. And like, you think about years ago, that wasn't the status quo, that a lot of people are just like, oh, that's the way it is now with benefits and so on and so forth. But the dental industry taught us that taught us consumer behavior, right? And 100%. I'm assuming you're on a very similar journey to that as well.
I look at dentist offices as like the primo of how they kept people in the loop. I was looking at how I got my dentist appointments in the mail, my text message reminders and email, because it would take a few touch points for me to actually make that appointment. So I remember looking at our numbers. I'm like, we have this like high level of retention, but it was at that point a couple of years ago, it was like in the 60%-ish area. Okay. I was like, I want to turn that into 80 or 85. So right now it's just my mom like phoning people or people phoning us, and we're lucky to be part of Crown. Like they have their own reminders they send out, and we kind of opt into.
Yeah, there's a system behind the scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember when I took over, or when I was actually just starting the business with my parents, they were opting out of all the marketing because they were like, no, we don't need that. People are coming to us, like we're fine. But I was like, let's just try. And my goal that year was like, I'm gonna say yes to every single marketing campaign ever that Crown has, and they're doing it. And we switched it, and it went from a cost to an investment that saw returns right away. And I think it blew my parents' mind because they were like, wow, we didn't know there's this much power in the marketing. But I'm like, yeah, people don't know we exist. So.
Point for marketing on the table right there on the board.
You need marketing. It's huge.
Have you guys tried booking the appointment when you finish? Like, because when I leave my dentist, I just did a checkup last week, so it's fresh in my mind. Yep. And like, she's like, "Oh, when do you how's November such and such?" I think she's actually my birthday, strangely enough. Mm-hmm. She's like, "How's November 5th for your next appointment?" I was like, "Oh, sure, book it in." She goes, "If anything changes, just let us know." But before I even left the chair, my dental hygienist rebooked my next appointment, and I just went along with it because I'm like, "Well, thanks for making it easy for me. I know I'm going to come in. I care about my teeth. I care about my car. So just book it in, and if it has to change, I'll change it." I don't know. It feels like that's a jump, but I did it the other day. Didn't even bat an eye. I didn't even hesitate.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I was literally talking to Celine about that this week as well too. I'm like, how cool would it be? And I think she might have brought it up as well too. She's like, you should book them in right away as soon as they're in. Because some people, when they leave, like, can I just book it for next year? I'm like, yeah. You're going to get a reminder. You're going to do this. But I'm like, I'm creating potential friction. Why don't I just do that right when they're here and they're asking for it anyways? So that might start to be part of like the new songbook as well too. Like I'm
Well,
creating more
it's one
operations
of
a
those
year.
things. It's all you have to do is ask. Hey,
Yeah.
typically some of our best clients who have the best cars like to book in a year in advance just so it's a placeholder. Do you want to do that? Like the psychology of asking that question is so easy.
Yeah.
Most of us are just going to say yes. It's like the 18, 20 or 22 or 25% tip options on the, it's amazing. I still want to see a report of how many people hit a higher percentage because it's what's presented to them on the machine. It's kind of that
Oh
same
yeah.
mindset, right? A little bit.
It is 100%. You don't ask, you
Not
don't
to put
get.
you in that category because that can be frustrating. I'm like, you can't lead with 25%. I'm like, it's a bit aggressive, but
No,
that's
we don't.
another,
We don't.
that's
We don't
another,
have a
that's
tip
another
option.
story.
We don't have a tip option at our shop. But I kind of wish sometimes. I'm like, you know what? Should we? Like, I'm tipping everywhere, and I'm like, why am I tipping for certain things?
I know. I think we do
Tip,
another whole
tip.
podcast on.
I
I
know
put
tipping
myself through
culture.
school working behind a bar, and I loved it. But the assumption and the requirement and the pressure and I think the tipping world's got a little out of control. But that's another podcast for another
Yes,
day.
definitely. Yeah, but it is cool though. Go back to your point though. Like, you don't ask, you don't get, and just like little things to just make it easier. And that's the thing. Like, I'm obsessed now, and it was wild timing as well too, because I had the book E-Myth sitting on my
Mm,
shelf for years.
it's a
For years.
classic, man. I
Dude.
read that book like 20 some years ago, and I still
Yeah.
reference it to this day. Mhm.
I didn't read it at all until I started actually taking over the business. And I remember going to Tofino, um, and end of or beginning of August in 2023, and I was like, I got to read this book because it keeps on coming up. I'm like, finally, I want to read something that's relevant, and that was a game changing book because it's that took whatever we were doing with streamlining the operations and whatever else, but it like dumbed it down to like, all right, every role has this, and no matter who comes in, because the problem always was in our business, my dad was the technician. If he was
Yeah.
sick or he didn't come in, that business stops, full stop. And the problem with that was that he never took a day off. So he's just been killing himself, making sure, because he's like, what am I going to do if I don't show up? Now it's a little different. We're going to put together a team and everyone can do certain roles. And that's also the beautiful thing as well, too. Now with Play City, like if I had a tech issue, I had to have a budget and I'd have to have like my development team's ear. And there's two different teams. Now, because I started doing the crown work myself, someone doesn't show up, like I'm underneath doing the crown. And I feel good about it. And it's all good. You know?
I
It's
love it,
awesome.
man. One, I love your passion for it. I love just the honesty also of the back to the alchemist of like kind of things going full circle and you seeing this opportunity and taking what you've learned and all your other adventures and then being able to bring that to a business where there was already customers, there was already cash flow. You probably already had trusted relationships with banks. Like it was such an easier place to start from. Then the cold start, and you've got so many business owners that are at that phase of their life where they're looking for an exit and maybe don't have a plan. I think this is an opportunity not only for sons and daughters, but for anyone out there to get to know some local businesses that are probably right under your nose, that there's owners, founders that are looking to transition and maybe they don't want to run away. They still want to be involved, but they really got to change their relationship.
For sure.
There's a level of entrepreneurship around that kind of search fund and buying an existing business. I think that's an overlooked opportunity. I think there's so much of that sitting out there to
I
give
agree.
people a chance to get into what often is a high barrier to entry, businesses that have high capital requirements.
Yeah, and they're quote unquote like not sexy businesses.
Yeah.
You know, I've been in tech, I've been in marketing, I've done all these things, and they're hard, and they're really really like insane, right?
They're sexy,
Um,
but they're not easy. They're hard to
no,
replicate. They're hard to scale.
exactly,
Yes,
exactly.
I will attest to that. And I
Yeah,
appreciate, but you also, us as individuals have to be at a place where sometimes we like the sexy and we like that, but then you
yes,
go, wait a second, you know what I really like is predictable cash flow and forecast that I can hit and a
yeah,
business model that I can scale. Oh, that sounds lovely.
yeah, exactly. I've never had this in my life before, Tyler. I've never had the ability to know exactly what's coming in, day out, looking at a schedule. Like I've never had this amount of structure. You know, like my relationship with my partner has flourished because of it. My
Mhm.
cash flow personally is finally at a place that I can like do things and invest and buy things and not stress about stuff as well too.
That's
Like
awesome.
predictability is something I've never had, and structure is something I've never had, and it's the best feeling. Honestly, I've needed it for so long.
Dude, that's amazing, man. I think we're going to stop right there because that was a great statement of, sometimes again, what we're looking for is right there, but we also have to be ready to see it. So
Yeah,
congratulations on the journey, man. When I brought the car in and we chatted a little bit, I was just excited about chatting with you about it. You were so passionate and so engaged, and I've known you for long enough to know you're a guy that goes all in, and to hear you all in on this business, but then also the story around the transition and the failed or the paused sale, which would have been
hmm
maybe a mistake, and now
hmm
you're working with your parents. I just think everything about this story it was newsworthy. So I'm happy to be able to tell it.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it, man. Shout out to my parents for starting the business and doing well and making sure that my crazy ideas weren't too wild.
Your hairbrain
Yeah,
schemed.
they gave me a chance. I'll give a shout out to yourself and also like Gilbert as well too for like being a part of that journey as well too. I had many conversations with Gil about this entire journey, and
Cool.
even my partner Celine, she's been huge in this journey as well too. Like I didn't know what the hell I was doing, where I was going to end up, but through everyone's support and pushing, it's been huge. And another shout out to my sister as well too, Tamisa. She's been huge in the background and like the marketing and some of
Takes
that
a village,
support.
man. Takes a village.
It really
I love
does,
it.
honestly. I really, really
So
appreciate
hey, if
everybody's
somebody's
support.
dying to get their car in there today, what do they? Where do they go? What do they do? Like let's do a blatant plug at the end.
Sure. So here's the thing: if you own your vehicle, you should get it crowned because they will protect your vehicle's frame and your integrity of your vehicle, whether it's your personal, your companies, or your fleets. We do it all. We do the Department of National Defense. I've done so many like G wagons and Mack trucks and Peterbilts, and we also do like the Calgary Transit, new bus fleets as well too. So if you have a
Oh,
fleet
very
of
cool.
vehicles, we have a mobile unit. We can come to you. So I'm looking for buses, all kinds of stuff. But
Oh,
we
nice.
do, yeah. So bring your car in. You can book your appointment online at crownwithak.com/Calgary. And there's an online booking tool that makes it pretty simple. You're in and out in an hour. You can call me at the business number as well too, and I'll walk you through if you have any questions. There's the videos online as well too that talks about how we do the entire
It's super
process.
easy, man. I did it. I think I booked through Instagram because I was just like, oh, let's see how this works. It was so seamless. Got my notifications. Like it literally was like to your point earlier, there was no friction. It was super easy. The only friction was me just getting off my butt and doing it.
Yeah, we appreciate it though.
That's
Thank
a
you
real
so
thing,
much.
man. That's real friction.
It is, yeah, it is. I don't have the ability to come quite get your car and bring it back to you yet. But who knows?
Yeah, I appreciate the yet ... Absolutely. Hafiz, brother, thanks for coming on, man. Congrats on the journey. Thanks for being just candid and honest with your story, as I know you always are. And dude, I think it's awesome, man. I'm wishing you all the successes.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much.